Right. This is episode 8.
Is it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. That's not a good start. What's going on, guys? My name is Aldeniro and welcome to episode 8 of the Midnight Hour. I'm joined today by my co-host Jack, because I'm sick of calling him a guest, because he's not really a guest, he's more of a co-host. And I don't know, Jack, introduce yourself.
What's going on? I've returned from my travels, but that none of you guys know about. Killed 7 or 8, blue whales. No big deal.
Standard, really. Just
Yeah.
another mental Saturday night with the lads. Returning with a few
Good old
blue
lad
whales.
banter.
Yeah. I love the way there's I just want to address this right off the bat, because it just occurred to me that guy in the comment section of the last episode that said Jack is a knob and didn't give any explanation or reasoning. He was just like, Jack, he's a knob. Oh, that was pretty
Can't
good.
disagree, really.
You know why I think he did it was because you commented and said that Jack lad is a cunt or whatever. And I think
Yeah.
Someone obviously looked at it and went, yeah, you know what? I'm going to jump right on this
Yeah,
bandwagon.
I agree.
Yeah, fuck that guy. But we've kind of got a question for the start of this, because a lot of people recently have been asking me to take questions from Reddit and stuff like that, and I was wondering, maybe for episode 10 or something like that, we could do a question and answer episode of the Midnight Hour, but instead of taking them from Twitter, we can open an account on, say, a website like Ask.fm, where if you want to submit a question, you don't need a Twitter account, you don't need a Reddit account, you don't even need an Ask.fm account, although you can make one if you want yourself to be named or whatever, but you could just throw a question in there. Your characters aren't limited to 140, and if you do that, if you want us to talk about anything, you could just throw it in there and we can all, we can just have a discussion about it in episode 10, just to mark the 10th episode, really, the 10th week. I was just wondering if you guys are up for doing that, then leave a comment saying that that's something you'd be interested in doing, because we do read the comments and we do read your suggestions and we do definitely respond to that type of thing. On that note, I think it's going to be pretty hard to top last week's episode. I thought that was a pretty good one. We talked
I
about
enjoyed last week's episode.
Yeah, it felt like the most fun, kind of, because it's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
This week we're going to be talking about supervillains. However, they're going to be real-world supervillains, people that we are either terrified by or that we find match the description of somebody who would be in a movie. But before we do that, Jack, who is your favourite movie villain ever?
I am going to take it in a slightly different direction than a lot of people would probably expect. I'm not going for the typical hero villain kind of format in terms of villain, and it's actually one of my favourite films, and it's got to be, my favourite villain is Patrick Bateman from
Oh, yes.
American Psycho.
That is a great shout.
Christian Bale plays that character phenomenally to start with, and it's just his intense hatred and distaste for everyone around him, and he does the most brutal and disgusting things, really, to the people that he kills, this psychopath, and you kind of side with him, really.
Yeah,
you don't really think that's awful. You kind of just think, yes, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. I really hope that everybody else agrees with that, and I'm not just sat here talking like a psychopath.
No. I've always wanted to attack Jared Leto with an axe. I get that. That's
Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my favorite scenes in Fight Club as well, is when Ed Norton just kicks the shit out of Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Not that I even particularly hate Jared Leto. He's a really good actor. It's just that 30 Seconds to Mars are bad, and
Yeah.
I think that's just fair enough. Christian Bale actually based his, he got it, what did he say? He based his kind of, the way the character moves and acts and stuff off of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, for American Psycho.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is really kind of, you can understand
Understanding. Yeah, I can really understand that.
that. Yeah, you see him jumping around on sofas and laughing about nearly killing a guy on a plane one time and stuff. And Tom Cruise is fucking insane.
That's a whole other podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, next one, Tom Cruise. My favourite villain is, my kind of cop out answer. Well, it's not a cop out. This is just me trying to be different. But the Nothing from the Neverending Story is probably the most conceptually terrifying one, because it's not a person or anything. It's a force that's killing the world, and like it's stopping people's imaginations, and it's just making the world nothing, and that's fucking terrifying. I think if that were to sweep through the universe, that would be fucking nuts. My actual supervillain, I guess, would be Loki. I think he's the man. But I think of him as a superhero. I just think he's the most awesome character of the Marvel universe. So there's that. But real life supervillains is why we're here. I don't think anybody will match. Well, actually, yeah, some people will match some of those that we've just said. We're gonna open with Genghis Khan, and Jack's got more information on him than I do.
We have been crunching the numbers.
Yes.
And
we actually did maths. That happened.
We actually, before we started this, we actually worked out the numbers. There's everybody's probably heard the fact that Genghis Khan murdered at the time, or not just him personally, because that would be one hell of a job, but him and his troop of Mongols murdered 11% of the world's population, and this was in 1200 AD.
Yeah.
Over a 21-year period, he murdered 11% of the world's population, which I worked it out, and I've completely forgotten the numbers, which is incredibly helpful. It was 45 million, or around 40 million people in 21 years.
Yeah, no, that's just ridiculous when you think about it. We calculated this, that the Holocaust, Hitler what the numbers that we've come up with anyway, which we think are correct, was that Hitler wiped out 0.2% of the world's population.
Yeah.
Whereas Genghis Khan, it was 11%.
And granted, the population at the time of Genghis Khan was around was around 500 million, give or take.
Yeah.
But with the they were riding horseback. Obviously, they were killing people with swords, hanging, burning, that kind of thing. There was no technology, so to speak, to kill people en masse.
Yeah.
This was just pure brutalization of the world, essentially.
Yeah, and there was no taking advantage of things like a downturn in the economy or use of propaganda or anything. This was just, here we are, and we're going to kill you. So, unlucky lads.
This was the siege after siege and ransack after ransack, and just for 21 years straight, essentially. And just the amount of pillaging that was done. Pillaging is, of course, kind of also includes taking what you want, which often includes the women.
Yep.
And everyone's kind of heard the fact that I think it was 1 in 200 men are distantly related to this Mongol horde that went through and just brutalized. I can't really explain it better than saying that they just brutalized everybody.
Yeah, brutalized is a good word. Brutality. Like, I don't know. Wouldn't it be a really good insult if someone pisses you off where you just say, you know what, you're probably one of those cunts that's related to Genghis Khan anyway. Like, I'm probably going to start saying that to people now, and they're not going to get what I mean, but I'm just going to say it anyway. But his story is particularly insane, but I think a lot of people tend to... Maybe they're a bit desensitized to it because of the fact that it happened so long ago, and we can't really imagine what it was like to be alive in those days or whatever. This is the best kind of segue I can do here. To move into a man of similar levels of evil, who is a supervillain that I'm going to talk about, and this is Kim Il-sung, who is the father of Kim Jong-il and the grandfather of current North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Kim Il-sung, for anyone that doesn't know, because he's not really talked about anymore in the media, is he? One thing I wanted to say was that this episode is gonna be kind of dark, and I'd advise you, if your stomach turns easily, or if you're offended by certain things, or if you're sensitive to, let's say, heavy information, you might want to give this one a miss. Having said that, we're not going to say anything that the news hasn't already said, at 6 o'clock or whatever, but it's still, I feel I don't know. I feel like some of the stuff might be a little bit too heavy for like people who just aren't ready for that. So I don't know. See how well you take it, and if you don't enjoy it, then just turn it off and tune back in next week, and that's fine. But Kim Il Sung, we're going to talk about. This dude invaded South Korea in 1950, which started the Korean War, which is technically still going on, albeit in a state of sort of a ceasefire, I guess. But what happened was that this guy had worked with the Chinese and the Russians for a long time as a youngster, and in 1948, just after World War II, Kim Il-sung became recognized by the Soviet Union, who had significantly more power then than they do now. But he was seen as the leader of all of Korea just by the Soviet Union. And that includes the South. They viewed him as the leader of the South just because they wanted to disagree with the UN, I guess. I guess that's what happened, or that's what he wanted to happen, because he ended up going into South Korea and invading them. The figure I read was that after 3 years of the Korean War, over 1.2 million people had died, and after the US and the UN got involved, the chances of actually unifying the two states were pretty slim, so he sort of backed off and went back into North Korea. And this was when he realized that he had the opportunity to form what's known now as the cult of personality. And this is the propaganda that you read about. He moved from, what I read was that North Korea used to work under Marxism, Leninism, communism, but they ended up moving into their own form of, I don't even know if I consider North Korea communist. I consider it more as like state capitalist.
Yes. It's difficult because there's not massive amounts of information coming out of North Korea, obviously.
No, there's not.
It is a total state run, and
yeah, that by definition is state capitalism.
Yeah, state. Yeah. Like, I think I'd agree. Yeah.
All the businesses are owned by the state, even if they're not. You know what I mean? Like, it's the states at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Anyways, when he was in power and started this cult of personality, anybody who opposed this regime just sort of disappeared. Nobody knew where they went or whatever, but they were obviously killed. Lots of prison camps were sprung up to house anyone who didn't go along with this reign. Now, in 1994, he had the decency to have a heart attack and die, but his body is still actually preserved in a glass casing where it's been for the last 20 years. And I looked this up. This is a communism thing, right? Like, they've got Lenin still in Russia, don't they? His body's still preserved.
Yeah, I think so. It's just another means for them to their legacy to continue, really. I mean, if you're, they say that you die twice. You die when you actually die, and then you die when the last time that your name is spoken.
Exactly.
And if you're forever if you're forever present, no one can go, who's that guy in the glass case?
Yeah.
When did he get here? Anybody? Who?
Interestingly enough, Kim Il-sung is actually the eternal president of North Korea. Like, he is still seen as the ruler of that country, despite being dead for 20 fucking years. If that's not enough to grant you supervillain status, there are over 500 statues of this cunt in North Korea. One thing I read on Wikipedia that sort of just gave me the creeps a little bit was there's an analyst of political killings, which is a field of business that I never want to aspire to become successful in. But this dude's name is R.J. Rummel, and he calculated that Kim's regime killed over 1 million people just through concentration camps, forced labor, and executions. So that kind of just says what kind of guy he is. Those are his own people. And
yeah, and I think another important thing to mention is not just. I wouldn't consider his kill count, as it were, to have stopped when he died. The work camps, the whole regime that he set up in North Korea persists 20 years after he's dead, obviously, now in his grandson.
Yeah.
And you can see leaked pictures from North Korean prison camps and drawings from children captured there and things like that, and just the sheer, it surpasses the detention camps and the concentration camps that the Nazis had.
Yeah.
And it's really horribly disturbing stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that sort of always gets brought up when somebody tries to create awareness for North Korea is that you know, in 1945, when they freed the remaining Jews who were left trapped, and like they brought all of that stuff out, the reason why that was so scary for everyone was because they didn't know it was going on, and it shocked the world to its core, was that the evil that was going on behind closed doors, and the fact that it could go on behind closed doors and nobody knew about it. We know about this and no one's doing anything about it. And that's scary in itself. And I read this account from a gulag, that a guy who was trapped in a gulag. He actually managed to escape by... Now, I think this could have been a family, but what I read about it was that it was one guy, and he was with a Chinese guy who was also in the prison with him. Or maybe it was another North Korean guy. Either way, they were both headed towards China, and they were going to escape, and they got to an electric fence. And like the first guy whose idea it was to escape went to climb under it, and he ended up getting electrocuted and he died. So the other guy took his body, put it over the fence, and climbed over his body so as to not get electrocuted. And he made it to China, and he eventually got refuge in, I forget which country it was. It wasn't China though. And he said that he saw this when there was a little kid who a guard called him over and gave him a head of lettuce and said, "Here, give a leaf of this to every woman you see, every healthy looking woman that you see." And the kid went around to every cell and gave a leaf of lettuce to every woman, and like within a few hours they were coughing up blood, and within like a day they were all dead. And that's just, they were clearly testing this type of, like, maybe it was a chemical warfare prototype or something like that. But that's so fucking creepy and evil and just sadistic, and just I can't even, you know, you run out of like words to describe.
Yeah, there's no words to describe how horrifying really any of these things are. I mean, you can't imagine the horror and the fear that must be instilled in literally millions of people, that they just persist in living under the tyranny of, you know, these people. They just allow it to happen.
Yeah.
There was, you know, I mean, there's a lot of political pressure obviously with China, Russia, you know, between the US and all that. None of them want to do anything to sabotage their relationships, because everybody's on tenterhooks, to be honest.
Yeah, and everybody owes money to everybody as well. That's another thing.
But I mean, North Korea absolutely baffles me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you heard about their what they call fan death?
No.
Their fan death. There has been propaganda in North Korea that is so persistent that people genuinely believe that if they sleep in a room with a fan on and the windows closed, they will die.
Jesus Christ.
It's something to do with circulation of air or something.
That is fucking crazy.
But yeah. There are people deathly afraid of sleeping in a room with a fan in North Korea.
That's just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I remember being on Imager a couple of weeks ago and seeing this. It was an account from a little girl who, well, she was a little girl when she escaped North Korea, and now she's older, and she was looking back on it, and it was translated into English, and she said that for years after she'd escaped North Korea, she was still afraid that Kim Jong-il could read her mind, because that's the level of propaganda that it's at over there. Like, they think that he's a god, and like that's what they're fed. Another thing is that, like, when Kim Il-sung died, and this, I imagine it'd be the same for Kim Jong-il, but they just fly people from all over North Korea to be at the ceremony and the funeral and all of that stuff, and they all just cry and cry and cry, and it's just, you look at their tears and you wonder how much of them are genuine and how much of them are put on because of fear and stuff.
I think that border blurred a long time ago in North Korea. You know, we can't assume that anybody that lives in North Korea that's our age knows anything. They don't know anything other than, you know, that life. They don't know anything beyond North Korea. They don't know anything other than living in fear of a fan in their bedroom at night, and a fear of this funny little man who looks like he's had more food than the rest of the country put together.
Yeah. That's another thing, was that, like, their space program is a joke, and their drones are essentially like a paper airplane with a hand grenade sellotape to it, but the starvation, like the malnourishment, the fear, all of that is real, and that's fucking terrifying that it can go on in this day and age.
I can't remember the actual numbers, but I remember reading in, you know, on the internet, that magical place.
Yeah.
That
I've been there. It's quite nice this time of year.
Yeah. That people in North Korea are several inches shorter than people in South Korea.
Yeah.
just because of the complete lack of, food or any food, and the widespread famine that persists throughout the country.
Yeah, it doesn't even surprise me.
No.
One thing I read, which is kind of a funnier note to end this on, to end the North Korea talk on, was that the demilitarized zone in the middle between North and South, the South Korean soldiers often like drive their jeeps up to the very border and blast K-pop into North Korea like at full blast, just to piss off the other soldiers. And I've read rumors and stuff that they do this quite often, and they just get shot at for doing it.
To be honest, if someone blasted K-pop outside my house fairly often from a jeep, I'd probably shoot at them.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Who will we move on to next?
What I was about to say sounds very unpolitically correct, but kind of keeping that kind of area of the world, I think move towards. It's the murder of a Japanese girl in the 1980s. Her name was Junko Furuta. She was 16 years old, and she was on her way home from school one day, and she was abducted by a group of, I'm not sure, 4 boys. One of them was 17 years old. It's not really disclosed generally, but we can assume that the boys that kidnapped her were around the same age. She was kept for 40 days in the house belonging to the parents of one of these boys, and she was tortured, raped, and then eventually murdered. Well, she actually just died of the wounds and the torture and rape that was inflicted upon her across these 40 days.
Fucking hell.
She was found in a concrete drum filled with 50 gallons of cement.
Jesus.
That was these kids' attempt to get rid of her body.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't advocate going and finding the list of horrible things that were done to her, but the list is extensive and particularly horrific, really.
Yeah, this type of thing always raises that sort of question. I think in every type of society, was it the parents' fault for the job they did raising the kids who did that, or is it just that they're inherently evil, like from the start? And it's always really difficult.
That's always a really difficult one. I mean, what always astounds me about this story is that the parents of the boy whose house it was that she was kept in were there for at least some of the time that she was held there.
Yeah.
And they claim that they feared their son too much to do anything about it.
Oh, fuck off. That's such a fucking cop-out, man. Like, you can't fear someone enough to pretend everything's okay and just fucking call the police when their back is turned, like...
This really... I've brought up a topic that really puts me beyond words, because with things like, Genghis Khan and Hitler and all that, or, genocide, you kind of lose sight of the horror in the numbers.
Yeah, you do.
Because it becomes such a mass thing, it's kind of easy to spread your apathy across so many people.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're focusing on this one 17-year-old girl who was repeatedly beaten, tortured and raped over a 40-day period, it's so much and you see pictures of her, with her friends, when she was 16 and stuff like that, and it's just so difficult to put a face to, this one person that suffered so horrendously at the hands of these boys.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's something I've kind of noticed, not really trickling into the way people talk about things, but say for example the Oscar Pistorius thing that's going on right now. Have you heard any of the audio clips from what he's saying and stuff?
I've heard some, yeah, but it was when it near where it initially happened.
Oh, right. Well, the trial is being... I don't know if the trial itself is being televised, but there's definitely sound bites coming out. And you can hear the anguish, is the perfect word for it. You can hear the anguish in Oscar's voice. And like, I haven't researched the case enough to know if I think he's guilty or innocent. And to be honest, like, as harsh as it sounds, like, I don't fucking care. It's not my... I haven't shown any interest in it from the start because I don't know who he is, and it's one of those things, you know? I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know anything about him, really, other than the obvious things. But, like, I said this one day, like, what was it? I was downstairs and they were showing like a soundbite of it, and someone I know was like, he's just bullshitting, like he's just saying that to save his own skin. And I was like, well, he's clearly not. Like, the anguish is 100% real, and the other person just wouldn't have it. It was like, no, he's killed her, and that's that. Like, he's kind of, because he's done something evil, he's therefore dehumanized, you know. And that's kind of bullshit. Like, his anguish can still be real. It can be regret for what he's done, or it can be fear about what's about to happen to him. But either way, he's still a human. And that's the way I think a lot of people, when they discuss things like genocide and whatever, they kind of leave out the human aspect of it. And you have to look at these cases where it's one person who's being brutally or mistreated or whatever, and people look at the killers as being like subhuman, which I'm totally fine with. But the scary part is that they are human.
They are human, yeah.
And humans do this.
Yeah, that is the terrifying thing. The thought that other humans these aren't sub creatures that have some deformity. I'm sure they might be psychotic,
yeah,
or such, but they're not a different race. They are just human beings. They are just these sick people.
Yeah.
And people often forget that. It's like when people are so surprised that Hitler had a pet cat or something, and he really enjoyed painting. You know, just because the man perpetrated these horrendous crimes against humanity doesn't mean he wasn't still human.
Yeah, like, it doesn't mean that another human isn't capable of doing the same things. Like, it's something that people kind of have to understand. I actually think that this idea that people have about them being not human is the same part of I guarantee it comes from the same part of the brain that tries to turn everything into a conspiracy theory to escape from the truth, which is more terrifying, and add some sort of cinematic spin on it that makes it like, oh, well, that's the bad guys, and that could never happen, you know, in a normal, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, let's like kind of gate everything off and keep it all where, well, humans would never do that type of thing, you know, like, if people do that.
Yeah, I think we've become very influenced by cinema in terms of there being black and white, there being heroes and villains.
Yep.
You know, there being the good guys, the heroes, the people you associate with, and the villains, you know, the guys that aren't human, that often you'll see in films they have some sort of, you know, deformity. Something will have happened to them to make them look different.
Yeah.
Even in the slightest, you know, various things like that. And you know, even I'm not sure if this is, you know, something that you'd agree with, but a lot of villains because it's American cinema, are British.
Yeah.
And that is something different from the American audience.
Yeah.
The American audience go, oh, well, the hero's American. Our American hero, and then it's got the evil British, you know, kind of, and that, you know, that can fling back to, you know, the
Revolutionary War.
Yeah, the Revolutionary War. But I think we've been very influenced by cinema, especially in, you know, recent years, over the last 30, 40 years, to kind of disassociate ourselves and, you know, these people and put them into the categories of hero and villain. And because in reality there is a massive grey area.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there is.
You know, there is no black and white. There is, you know, there is evil and there is good, but you know, it's not as clear cut as we would like it to be.
No, have you ever actually seen the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin?
No, I've been meaning to, actually.
It's very, very good. It's very powerful. And I won't ruin anything about it. I'm just going to say this movie asks the question, are people born evil? Are evil people evil? Or do their parents not do enough for them? Like, kind of, it asks that
nature
kind of
versus nature versus nurture.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and I think it handles it in a really good way because it doesn't definitively answer the question. Which I mean, that doesn't ruin it because you would have already known that if You would have known if it took a side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting to see, and I guess that I actually think what we talked about there is really important, and I think it's far more important than the topic itself, because it's something that needs to be said. Like, it really does.
Yeah.
Humans do bad things. Like, humans are evil. Like, humans are fucking scum. So, like, you know, don't think that just because someone's done something evil that, you know, they're somehow different to anybody. Sounds like I'm defending them, doesn't it?
I know, yeah. That's what I was thinking. As I was saying it, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, am I going to start killing people and going, well, I'm just the same as you.
Yeah.
Stabbing someone, just going, it's okay, we're the same, really.
Yeah, that is. It's really hard to say that out loud.
No, let's move on.
Yeah, right. This next one is, it's my favorite. I'm going to be talking for a very long time here, so enjoy the last of Jack's voice that you just heard, because I'm also going to kill him. Now, this next one is The Monster with 21 Faces, and if that title alone doesn't get you excited, then you're dead inside. To start off, Ezaki Glico is the best way I can pronounce that. They're a food company in Japan where this story also takes place. They make chocolate bars and confectionery and stuff like that. They're a gigantic company. One day in the 1980s, I believe it was 1982, two guys with guns broke into the home of the president of this company, the Glico company, and they kidnapped him, holding him up in a warehouse and demanding a ransom for him. I never actually did find out how much they were asking for. But the president of the company managed to escape he escaped his capture, and he got away like really quickly. No one ever really found out who kidnapped him or anything, because it all happened so suddenly. It was just, I guess it was just a really weird occurrence to have happened at the time. But 2 weeks later, some of the cars parked outside the company, the headquarters, were set on fire, which became another unsolved case that happened. And after that, there were letters sent to the company from somebody calling himself the Monster with 21 Faces, or something calling itself the Monster with 21 Faces. And the message that they sent in this letter said that the food in the company, the Glico company, had been laced with potassium cyanide soda, which led to the company pulling products from the stores, and that cost them $21 million American money at the time. They had to lay off, I think it was like 450 workers or something after that. Like, that was a huge piece of, I guess, attempted industrial sabotage. The Monster with 21 Faces then sent letters to the police, such as one that says, "Dear dumb police officers, don't tell a lie. All crimes begin with a lie, as we say in Japan. Don't you know that?" And he sent more later on, but they were all signed as the Monster with 21 Faces. A few weeks later, the Monster with 21 Faces sent a message to Glico saying, like, "I forgive you," and then it stopped fucking with their business and moved on to their rival company, Morinaga, which is another confectionery company, and also a few other confectionery companies as well. But the most super villainous moment for me came in 1984 in October, when the Monster sent a letter to news agencies saying that Morinaga sweets had been laced with sodium cyanide, which police checked into, and it turned out to be true. They got rid of all of the deadly stuff before it got to the shelves. But the police superintendent, whose name I cannot pronounce, he was really disheartened, and he'd been following this guy for years. He wasn't able to catch it. He didn't even know if it was one person or multiple people. He had no leads whatsoever. And in 1985, he self-immolated, which means that he set himself on fire to kill himself, because I guess it was the shame or something like that. But the Monster sent the final message in, I believe it was 1985, like a couple of weeks later, and it said, Yamamoto of Shiga, I don't know, whatever the police name is, died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding places in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikita who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career Yamamoto died like a man. So we decided to give our condolence. We decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food-making companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do than bullying other companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. The Monster with 21 Faces. And nobody knows who it is since then.
No, that is a hell of a story. I mean, where do you even start? I found somewhere. Cracked seems to claim that They held him. They held the CEO for ransom of 100 million yen and 100 kilos of gold bullion.
Oh wow.
So and that is a hell of a thing, and that is a hell of a large amount of money, especially in the 80s, let alone now. And then on to finding these. I don't know if you noticed it. I'm not sure. I don't remember you mentioning it. They actually labelled the packages that they put on the packages that they laced with sodium cyanide. They put them on They put them on the shelves in stores, and they were labelled. These packages that they laced were labelled with "danger contains toxins," which were completely out of line with the other confectionaries of the same make.
Yeah.
And they actually found a total of 21 lethal sweet products as well, which fits nicely with the whole 21 faces.
Isn't it really weird that it started out being just a simple ransom thing, if indeed they are connected, but I'd imagine that they are.
Yeah, you'd imagine so.
Yeah, it'd be a big coincidence otherwise. But it's so weird that it started out as something that was seemingly for monetary gain, albeit I don't know that ransoms like that ever really get paid. But it moved into this area of not necessarily wanting to kill anybody, but wanting to just fuck with people.
Yeah. I mean, this is like I don't know if savant is the right word. This is a genius's game. They're playing with something. This is me being a detective, by the way. This is someone that's very intelligent by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
And this is someone who's bored with playing with whatever their mind and they're playing mind games, and they're playing with possibly the most the most priceless thing possible, people's lives.
Yeah.
And they're playing with them on such a massive level.
Yeah.
On a wide scale level.
There was a part in the letter, the last letter that he, she, they, it, whatever sent, that said Yamamoto died like a man, so we decided to give our condolence. Where it seems to be sort of remorseful, but also just being like, yeah, well, that guy died like a man, like, you guys are all pussies. That, and it seems to be like, well, I've made a guy kill himself, but I'm proud and he should be proud. Like, it's that kind of sadistic sort of element to it that seems a little weird, where it's like they respect him for self-immolating.
Yeah, I mean, respect is a lot in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
You always, it's always that kind of stereotype that people don't want to shame their family. They don't want to shame the family name, as it were.
Yeah.
And not being able to do his job was, shaming his family name, and and the self-immolation that's a hell of a way to go. I mean, that is. You don't choose that as a quick way out.
No, that's something that's usually used by people who are protesting. It's usually you're making a point out of something, that you believe in something so strongly that, that, like, this is the worst pun in the world, but that passion is burning. So I should not have gone there. But you know what I mean? I'd imagine that is genuinely the symbolism behind it. Is that it's, you want to emphasize how much you care about something.
Yeah.
So for someone to choose that for a way out is kind of baffling a little bit.
I think a lot of it is to do with just playing with people's lives. They didn't necessarily want people to die, like you said, with the whole them sending their condolences.
Yeah.
They didn't want people to die per se. They just wanted to be able to have the power of people's lives.
Would you say
to play a game with it?
Would you say it's fair to say that it's the exact same mentality that video game hackers have?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, you don't actually want to fucking ruin everyone's game. You just want to show that you can. It's a pissing contest.
Yeah. It's like a pissing contest, really, but it's flexing the muscles, and I think that's something, showing off is something that's deeply ingrained in, human subconscious, whether you want to admit that or not about yourself. That's something that everyone really experiences at some level or another.
I don't know
And
what
I
you're talking about. By the way, follow me on Twitter. My link is in the description. I've got like 5,000 followers.
I'm nearly at 6,000 followers. And I think that's just something that they're doing here, just on a massive scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree.
This is a completely different type of villain to the kind that we've talked about previously. They didn't per se kill anyone.
Yeah.
People died as a consequence of their actions. But it was suicide.
Yeah, they're not evil in the black and white movie kind of a way, because they have shown remorse, and they have shown that they're, if anything, I think they want to come across as playful but powerful, more so than anything else. And they like I say, they've shown remorse, whereas if this was in a movie, it would be like, I mean, it's fucking Simon from Die Hard with a Vengeance. It's him planting bombs everywhere. You want to play with people, but you also want to kill people, because that's what you are. You're a psychotic type person. Whereas this seems to be more, I don't know, it's strange, because the things were laced with poison, which can kill people, obviously, but they were also labelled, so...
Yeah, it's such a, I think that is another level of them mocking the police, just putting the fact that danger contains toxins, which were completely out of character of the packaging.
Yeah.
That was just another, it's all a power play. It's a power play to flex their muscles, and you said that the kidnapping and the first letter resulted in, what was it, a $21 million loss of stock, and they had to fire 450 part-time employees.
Yeah.
That's a massive hit to any, well, depending on how big the company is, obviously.
It's still fucking huge.
That's a significant amount of money to anybody. And that is, and especially the amount that Cracked claims that they claim they wanted for was it the CEO that was kidnapped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the president, that is the CEO, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Same thing, same difference. They're massive amounts of money, and it's a massive amount of people, and,
Yeah, it's fucking...
lives being played with,
Yeah, it's fucking colossal and just crazy at the same time. And the fact that no one ever found out who was behind it is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, from what I read on Wikipedia, there were leads to, I think, 2 separate people, but they were fucking nothing, like shoestring.
Yeah.
Or, what's the word? Straws.
Yeah. Grabbing at straws.
Yeah. What I just noticed is that we've been very biased against Asia so far.
Yeah, that part of the world seems to have... But then again, any part of the world's done some fucked up things. It just so happens that we've chosen some things from Asia.
Yeah.
So let's move slightly closer to home.
The next one starts in China.
Not quite. Well, it's the China of Western Europe.
Oh yes.
It's not at all. It's Ukraine.
Yep, the China of Western Europe. No, that's what they're called. I swear I saw a holiday brochure yesterday that said, "Come see the China of Western Europe."
They've got a wall. No, it's the Ukrainian maniacs. I'm not going to try and pronounce.
I was just going to say, what town were they from again?
Right, hang on. Right, I'm going to try and pronounce it. Dnepropetrovsk maniacs. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
They were 3 guys who were responsible for. Actually, it was 2 guys. Sorry, it was 2 guys, 19-year-olds, who were responsible for 21 murders and countless counts of animal cruelty.
Yeah. I remember reading about the animal stuff.
Yeah. This was in 2007. And it took place over about a month, from June 25th to July 16th. 21 people in that time, and they chronicled it essentially in photographs and on the phones that they stole from the people that they murdered. I think it was over 300 photographs of these people that they murdered, and their choice of weapons were mostly blunt objects. A hammer being the main, the most well known murder weapon, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should mention it, but there is the infamous video that has been circulated.
Yeah, we won't say the name. I think.
No,
that's
yeah.
But there is.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a video leaked. It's nothing you can't find if you look it up on Wikipedia. Well, obviously you won't be able to find the actual video, but
Nah.
it talks about it, saying, you know, it was leaked. It was the murder of a 48-year-old man. He struck repeatedly with a hammer. He was stabbed repeatedly with a screwdriver. You know, the attack lasts for over 4 minutes.
You know, it's like.
And
I just wanted to say, right, I feel really bad having stuff like this on my channel, but at the same time, right, I went on fucking Facebook like a week ago, and there was a video from like some person I went to school with, and it came up on my timeline, and it was a dude getting his fucking head chopped off by a chainsaw. Like, and it was a real picture, and it's like, that's not funny, I don't mean to laugh at it, it's just, that's on fucking Facebook, so I really shouldn't feel like I have to not talk about things that are relevant to the discussion, you know? It's not when it's on fucking Facebook for fucking, like, every fucking 14-year-old to look at and stuff.
Yeah, so to be honest, it's really I really didn't want to mention the video, but I felt I don't think I can avoid it.
No, because I mean
it was a massive thing on the internet at the time.
Yeah, that will trigger it in people's minds for sure.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's the only way that I knew it, because it was, I said to you earlier, didn't I, that they were them.
Yeah. But you know, there was over 300 videos. In most of them, the murderers can be seen smiling at the camera.
Yeah.
And, you know, smiling and enjoying themselves. You know, I mean, that is the most sickening thing. You know, these two 19-year-old men thought of it as a hobby.
Imagine that. That's like 5 years younger than me.
That's 2 years younger than me.
Just like the concept of that is fucking terrifying. Like, do you ever have a dream where you kill someone? And I don't know if this is sort of off the cuff. We haven't talked about this before, right? But whenever I have a dream that I've killed someone, I never feel like good about it. I always feel the guilt of like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, the police are gonna find out. Like, I'm never gonna be able to explain myself or whatever. But these dudes are just there, like, fucking smiling about it and getting all these pictures and videos and putting it on the internet and stuff. And that's just fucked, man. Like, that's not. Obviously it's not right, but that's just really, that's another thing that's terrifying, because you see them and you see the fact there's so many pictures of them like by themselves and stuff. You see the humanity in them, like, that we kind of talked about before, and it's just so fucking twisted. And I don't know, I've always wondered with stuff like this and the one that we talked about before, how do you, like, I understand some people are psychopaths. I understand that psychopathy is a thing and that some people just don't have the emotions or whatever. But how do you happen to live near someone who has the exact same mental condition that you do that makes you want to do that?
That's another thing I've often wondered. You know, you hear about, you know, with these guys, these two friends that started doing it. You know, with the Columbine high school shootings, the two friends that did it. How do you build up? You know, sure, you're a psychopath, but at what point do you go, this is the kind of guy that would want to kill people with me?
Yeah.
Like, how does that come up in conversation? You know, like, at what point do you just go, like, when you're sitting with someone playing Xbox, and just go, ever thought about brutally murdering anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Me too. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, what are you up to tonight? I've got some rubber gloves in the boot of the car. You know, like, when does that come up in conversation, or is it a thing that builds up over time?
Yeah.
I just, you know, I can't really fathom you know, I suppose it's impossible for us, you know, for someone of sound mind, as it were, to fathom the thought process of a psychopath, but.
Yeah, because they don't have emotions. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's what makes a psychopath a psycho.
Yeah, because they don't follow the same structure of emotions as a normal human being.
The thing about psychopaths is they know the difference between right and wrong, but they don't care, and that's what makes it so. But yeah, I mean, like we were saying, I could understand, right, if, say, two people come from a similar, like, sort of impoverished background and they weren't raised well or whatever, And I can understand this more so from the past, but it's difficult to fathom it now. Is that they're obviously going through the same type of thing in the same level of. They have the same level of anger and disgust for the world around them, which kind of suggests that they were reared in very similar fashions, and that's what drew them to each other. But how does that survive when you go into the real world, you know, like, and you see how people function in the real world? Like, I guess that's the thing, is that they don't care, and that's what makes it. But I'm not able to even kind of articulate what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I feel bad being on a podcast at the moment, because a lot of these things leave me kind of speechless. You know,
Yeah.
I can't describe my disgust. I think, you know, is probably the best word. My disgust for what these people have done.
Yeah, words aren't qualified, because all you can really say is like evil, scum, like stuff like that. And again, those are the types of things that dehumanize the situation. I don't know, like, how you could even go about, let's say, catching stuff like this before it happens, you know what I mean? Like, without sort of infringing on people's rights too much, or without making too many heavy implications about somebody's life. Because, like, everybody knows somebody who they've quietly thought, you know, oh, that guy, like, you know, someday he's gonna break. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just as a even as a joke between friends, you know, I've often, you know, said as a, you know, mentioned things like you know, mention things like, you know, the call of the void as a joke, and people, you know, have been like, you know, oh, you could jump out in front of the train. You're not gonna, but, you know, it's a thing that you could do, you know. I've always been fascinated with serial killers and the fragility of life and stuff like that, and I've mentioned it to friends in the past, and it's kind of, you know, the joke, oh, you're a bit mental, you know, oh, don't get angry, and it's, you know, it's like, well, no, I'm not actually going to do it.
That's
I'm just
so funny you should say that, cause
considering the thought of it.
I'm that guy as well in my group. Like, in my group of Irish friends, they call me angry young man, and it's because I'm, like, let's face it, it's not hard to get me angry about something, but like, whenever they say something really stupid to, like, troll me in person or whatever, say I'm taking a sip out of my pint, and I'll slam it down when I'm about to go on the offensive, and people just go, whoa, 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 he's getting angry, and then they back off jokingly. And, like, I'm kind of thankful it's me, because I know that I'm not capable of physically harming anybody. So, like, I'm glad that it's me in the group that they kind of project that joke onto. But for the people who would have thought that about people and then seen them witness it, you know, you ever wonder if they feel a level of guilt about it too, that they knew it was going to happen or something? Or do you think it's just that certain people, I know people who do bad things and smile about it and stuff like that. Those are always the types of people who are really good at navigating through social situations, and they're really good at feigning emotion, and they're really good at, you know what I mean? Like, they're very good social navigators, essentially. They're very good in social situations, and I guess that's why it's so difficult to detect it.
Yeah, I think a lot of if especially if they are, you know, kind of that Patrick Bateman kind of state, kind of sort of psychopath. You know, they're not navigating social situations as you know, as a human being. They're navigating as an outside observer and seeing how other people react and reacting in kind. You know, they're taking it as a very logistical, you know, they're very logic orientated, I guess you could say.
When you actually think about it, Hollywood has gotten it all wrong with regards to stuff like that, because serial killers like Patrick Bateman are often the types of actual serial killers. Like, they are often charismatic, you know. Whereas I don't know, recently I've noticed this kind of trend that a lot of serial killers are
depraved.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Like, they're often and yeah, sure, a lot of serial killers are you know, sexually depraved. Especially a lot of serial killers seem to be sexually motivated in a lot of aspects. But especially, you know, especially Patrick Bateman's kind of the kind of character of Patrick Bateman is clinical. I think the word that I'm looking for is clinical. That's the best way I think I can really describe it.
Yeah.
You know, the clinical way that they go about everything.
Yeah, cultivating an image. And
the cultivating the perfect image. I mean, and that is really shown in, you know, the scene with the business cards.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, having everything perfect down to a point, and his morning routine, and, you know, perfectly laying out the newspaper and the the sheets over the chairs so that nothing gets dirty.
Yeah.
Just that level of clinical
calculation.
Yeah, and the calculating aspect of it. And I think that's a side that a lot of people don't really take into consideration, is that these people are often charismatic and incredibly intelligent.
Yeah. Whereas it's sort of like the guy in Home Alone, the old guy who sweeps the fucking road or whatever. That is typically in more recent Hollywood movies, in my opinion anyways, that is kind of the serial killer. And people have gotten off that, and the Christian Bale type guy is more often the hero nowadays. That's just something that I've kind of picked up on. That seems to be.
Yeah, that's not to say that the kind of serial killers that fumble about and beat people to death with hammers don't exist, because obviously we've just spoken about that with the
yeah, absolutely.
the two Ukrainian guys, but different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Anyways, I need to return some videotapes.
Oh dear.
No one will get that joke either.
No.
Nobody. But shall we move on to?
Yeah.
I've got a person who, funnily enough, comes from the actual China of Western Europe. This is a guy from Russia. So, would you think that's fair to say? Because they're both sort of.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah.
I haven't just stepped on a landmine there, have I?
Well, to be honest, with where Russia and China are concerned, it's kind of difficult not to step on a landmine. Literally and metaphorically, but
I don't know if I should leave this in.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm leaving it in.
Yeah.
Fuck it, it's a joke, alright? It's been a very dark thing, and we need some humour up in
That's
this
if anybody's even still listening after this point.
Yeah. This will be the one that breaks the show, 46 views, 4 likes, and one guy in the comment section saying Jack is a knob. This next guy, anyway, he comes from Russia, like I said. His name is Oleg Nikolayenko, which had better be right.
Well pronounced.
Yeah, thank you. So this guy was charged with. He's charged with violating a spam act that came in the year around 2003. Obviously, it's to do with internet spam. And what he pretty much did was he ran the Mega D botnet, which creates a zombie network and infected as many as 500,000 computers. And this is all kind of technical stuff, right? And I don't really. I think it's very difficult to create metaphors or analogies to explain what spam and stuff like that does. But for a very ballpark figure that you'll all understand, up to 10 billion unsolicited emails were sent to random accounts per day because of this guy. So the figure that I've read is that his bot thing that he set up on the internet accounts for 32% of all the spam in the world. And the reason that makes him a supervillain is because who fucking likes spam? What is even the point of it? What goes through the head of somebody who sends fucking tons of spam around to people? Obviously, it's monetary orientated. Everyone wants to make money and stuff like that. But even beyond that, who fucking clicks on stupid Viagra links, and who believes that they're the 1 millionth customer and stuff like that? I've never really understood the mentality behind spam. I kind of think it's somewhat similar to the monster with 21 faces, where it's that you just want to fuck with people and make some money along the way. Obviously, this guy did make money, and that's why he is where he is, but it's just so, I don't know, it's so how can you look at yourself in the mirror because of what you've done when... Yeah,
I mean, it's preying on the stupid and the elderly, basically.
Yeah.
And and phishing scams and any rules and any scam and all this spam mail. What was it? Did you say 10 billion emails?
10 billion emails
day.
Per day.
A day.
Yeah, and that's only 32% of all spam as well. So you add that up, you got 40 billion emails a day makes up all the spam.
Yeah, and how many people are on Earth?
I believe it's now 16 billion. No, it's
there's more spam emails sent a day from this one bloke.
Yeah.
Than there are people on Earth.
Yeah. Wrap your fucking
head around that.
And
by quite a significant amount. At what point do you go, do you know what? Do you know what I'm going to do with my life? I'm going to dedicate it to sending unwanted emails. I just don't understand the desire to, or the thought process that would lead you to going, this is what I'm going to dedicate my time to.
By the way, to all the people who don't understand my sense of humor, I'm well aware that there's like 7 billion people and not 16 billion. I just said that. I just say things sometimes, you know. I spam with my mouth, you know.
Part of my brain was really worried. That was an awful joke, by the way, that you just made. Part of my brain was really worried that I'd just gone 7 billion. Trillion. No, trillion sounds ridiculous. But yeah, 10 billion a day. From one person, and that's only 32%.
Yeah. This is a guy, right? I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now, and his prison photo, or well, his photo that's by the U.S. Marshals, according to this, he looks like the type. You'd look at this guy and you'd think he's dodgy. Like his eyes are, like he's got those druggy eyes, you know.
He's got those eyes that just tell you that he's done something depraved in his life.
Yeah, his eyes just say, you know what, I'm a bad person, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's what he seems to be. That's the message he seems to be giving me here. But this guy only got, I think I read 5 years in prison, but he was sentenced to time served plus 3 years probation. So I don't know legal stuff that well, but doesn't that mean that he hasn't spent any time in an actual prison apart from the time served? But that's just in the lead up to the trial, obviously.
No, yeah. Well, did you say suspended?
No, probation.
Probation.
What is probation? I don't really.
Probation is you're free to. I think it's you're free to live, but you are on. You know, you're on a kind of a anything minor, and you're done for.
Yeah, you're on a short. Tether.
Short leash.
Short leash. Yeah. So he hasn't actually. He's actually free right now, and these guys always go back to their computers. And
yeah, I mean it's incredibly hard to police the internet, and I understand the fact that he's made probably a lot of money off of people clicking, you know, trying to buy a watch or trying to buy Viagra or trying to, you know, send the Nigerian prince the money that he needs.
Yeah.
But like. He's given birth to a monster. He really has.
Yeah, he has. And he's, like, I mean, he's making our lives a little bit more inconvenient. You know what I mean? Like, no one likes spam. Like, do you know, people who use AdBlock, right? And this is a tricky situation for me. This is a tricky thing for me to talk about, right? Because personally, I don't like AdBlock. It costs me, like, 60% of revenue that I could earn, right? But I've never bitched about it because that's fine. If people want to use it, that's fine. And the reason it's fine is because, like, most of the things AdBlock is good for is getting rid of spam. You know, like, I don't think anybody actually minds watching a 15-second advert to support someone that they like, you know? Like, I don't. I have AdBlock turned off for YouTube. Obviously, I'd be a huge hypocrite if I didn't. But say I want to watch a fucking, like, a live stream or something, and I put on AdBlock. That's to block the things coming up saying, congratulations, you're the 1 millionth visitor. Like, I don't need that. I don't need to see that. I'm not costing anybody any money by ignoring that. So, you know, that's why AdBlock is what it is. But that, like, if there was no spam, then there'd be none of that. And people wouldn't need AdBlock, you know? And I'd be rolling in money. Now, just kidding. But, like, it would just make things a lot easier for everybody, I think, if stuff like that was regulated better, although I don't really know how you would go about doing it.
In reality, the internet is a utopia of no advertisements and monetary gain for clicking on websites.
Yeah.
You know, that's the internet utopia, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
I really want to do a podcast about the internet. I just don't know how to, you know what I mean?
Where do you start with a topic like that?
Yeah, it's such a fucking broad thing. Like, there's so many parts of it I'd love to talk about, like, sort of like our histories on it, you know, like where we started off and how it's changed and stuff. And also just the way that it's pure democracy in its truest form. Like, you know, the internet is the only example of democracy you'll ever really see. You know, it's not like our democracy that we have where you vote for two people that you don't really like. On the internet, what you like is what you get, you know, and all that stuff. But I just don't know how to kind of get into it. But that's kind of a side topic, I guess.
Yeah, it's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But I think the next guy I'm going to mention is stepping back to a more traditional kind of a villain rather than one that's exploited people for monetary gain. He is probably... everybody will know him, I'm assuming. I'm making this bold assumption, but it's Ed Gein. He was an American murderer and body snatcher. He confessed to killing 2 women. And you might think, if you've never heard of him, why am I mentioning him if he's only killed 2 women?
Well, if they didn't get it by the fucking body snatcher reference.
Well, yeah. If you missed that part, he used to sneak into a local graveyard, often when he claimed he was in a daze-like state, and he would dig up graves of recently buried women. Often, it's noted that they were often had a strong similarity to his mother, which is a whole other Freudian level of shit that goes into that one.
Yeah. Freud can fuck off, by the way.
Yeah.
Big fuck you to Freud.
He was ruled by the court as not guilty by reason of insanity, and he is most famous for the list of how do I explain these human artifacts that he kept. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'll list a couple of them, probably the most famous ones. He had skulls, people's skulls on his bed. They were female skulls on his bedposts. He had female skulls with some of the tops sawn off. Bowls made from human skulls. Leggings made from human leg skin. One of the women that he murdered, he used her face, leathered it, and made a mask out of it. One of the other woman that he murdered, her entire head was in a burlap sack. Various parts of young women's genitalia cut, and probably my favourite of all of them, a belt made from female human nipples.
Yeah. I think he needed help.
He needed extreme help, and this is one of those things where he claimed he made around 40 visits over a 5-year period to a local graveyard, and he claimed he was in a daze-like state. And it says on Wikipedia, on about 30 of those visits, he said he came out of the daze while in the cemetery, left the grave in good order, and returned home empty-handed. On other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother, and took the bodies home, where he tanned their skins to make his paraphernalia. So, all told, he admitted to robbing 9 graves and the murder of 2 women. And he was obviously several doctors determined that she was sane enough to stand trial, and he was found legally insane. But he was found legally insane and spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital.
Yeah. We should say as well that this dude, he was born in 19.
Yeah, this is I should mention, this isn't something recent that you all missed.
No.
He died in 1984, and this was in 1945. That's such a bad. I've completely forgotten, and I can't find it on the Wikipedia page, even though I'm looking at it. He was apprehended in 1957, so you are well and truly safe.
Yeah. You're grand. This dude is he's the Texas Chainsaw guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the guy that inspired Norman Bates from Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. He's inspired a fair few horror fans, and it is. It makes me shudder to think of the things that he did with the some of the people that he exhumed.
Isn't it weird that this guy doesn't scare me as much as Leatherface. And this happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's because he doesn't. There is a certain level of disassociation. For the most part, he did murder 2 women, but for the most part, he doesn't fuck with blokes. He doesn't fuck with living. So I'm alive and I'm a bloke, so I'm fairly safe.
Yeah.
If someone like this was to prance about, in today's society.
Yeah, like you would walk past this guy on the street and
he wouldn't look twice at you. But if you were a female of a certain age and happened to look like his mother, you probably want to lock your bedroom window.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the really weird part. Well, no, that isn't. It's all the really weird part. All of it. There is no part that isn't the really weird part.
I think the least weird part is the fact that he was a grave robber. That is like the least weird part of everything that he did.
Yeah, it actually is.
I'm not sure. Like the things that I listed that he had, and you can't like really imagine like the things. You know, there's a list of this paraphernalia that he had collected, and he had skinned these people and tanned their hide like cattle to build up this woman's suit.
What like I don't like just like what the fuck, man? Like what like
yeah.
I don't know. And
yeah,
like,
I think that's the perfect thing to say. Just what the ever loving fuck.
Yeah, like what the actual fuck, dude. And it's like I don't know. I think this dude kind of takes on ultimate supervillain status because of the fact that he has inspired three of the ultimate supervillains. You know, he's inspired three of the most terrifying villains that have ever existed and been portrayed on cinema. So
yeah, I mean,
this guy kind of wins it.
Yeah, I mean, this really is one of those Wikipedia pages that you kind of read, kind of like with a furrowed brow and your mouth kind of open, going, "What the ever loving fuck is happening?
Yeah,
like, what am I reading?" And you forget that it is something that happened. Sure, it was 70 odd years ago now. Well, 60. Maths is good. Sure, it was like 60 years ago, but it happened.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to stop someone today from going, you know, a psychopath today from going, this is the guy for me.
This is all good stuff I'm seeing here on his CV, like.
Oh God.
I don't know. I prefer the fact that this guy is long dead, like, because that makes it immediately less creepy for me, you know, because I guess because we can see how much society has changed and stuff since then, and we have this belief that, I guess I'm guilty of all the things that I fucking said about earlier, but it's just that I kind of have it in my head that wouldn't happen today, even though, like, it probably would, like,
could,
probably happening right now.
Possibly, who knows?
In your back garden.
Yeah, not mine. I'm a 21-year-old man. I'm fine. I'm living.
Yeah.
I am dandy.
Yeah.
It's the dead hookers I've got buried in the garden that I need to worry about. Oh, God, why did I say that?
That's kind of... I'll edit that out, man. No worry. No one will know about that. But yeah, like that dude can go fuck himself, really. He probably has. But...
Yeah.
I'm glad he's dead. He wasn't given the death penalty or nothing, so I'm glad he's dead. Like that's
he died of respiratory and heart failure due to cancer. So I can't imagine his death was gentle.
Yeah, that's true.
Sounds drawn out and horrid.
And now we're guilty of being the exact you know what I mean, like all of that stuff. This has been a weird episode.
Yeah, it has.
I don't know, are we going to get to the other stuff, or will we leave it here?
I'm not sure there's a way we can really include Justin Timberlake without defaming, without getting some sort of cease and desist letter for defamation of character.
Yeah, that is very true. The ultimate supervillain is the Alzheimer's that his fucking dad had in Friends with Benefits.
Yeah. Alzheimer's with air quotes in that one.
Oh yeah. It's more like
Alzheimer's. Yeah, that.
Wait, no, isn't a seismic? Wait, no, never mind. I'm not getting into this. There's no way I can come up with a way of it. Alzheimer's. No?
Oh dear.
Yeah, this is bad. This is taking a bad turn.
At least we've ended on a strong note.
Oh God. Who is even the villain in Friends with Benefits? That doctor guy that she was seeing, he was kind of he was a bit of a ball ache, wasn't he?
The only they were only villains to themselves.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the kind of cop out answer I'm gonna give.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I want to say, what did I want to say? If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. If this was a little too heavy, let me know of that too. I'd kind of like to understand if I get that this one was a little bit more kind of brutal.
Morbid.
But, yeah, very much so. Even with our hilariously bad jokes that.
Yeah.
But let us know about the episode 10 thing if you think that's a good idea, and then if you do, in the next episode we'll put the Ask FM thing in the description and stuff like that. If we get a predominantly positive response on it, also follow Jack on Twitter because I fucking said so. And dude, you tweeted that thing yesterday, like the bus. Like, obviously taking the piss out of all the people who... I thought that was hilarious. Like, that's something that I wish I tweeted when I saw it.
I found it hilarious. But, you know, I find all of my tweets hilarious.
Yeah,
I really enjoy tweeting that picture of David Moyes that says "Oh crumbs" on it. But you know.
I'm actually upset that he got sacked because now I can't make any more stupid David Moyes memes kind of tweets. You know. It's just the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing, and it was so fucking and it's circulated all the time, and people think they're being so original with it.
Yeah.
So I like to just be like, yeah, well, your joke is shit. Like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're guilty of, you know. But yeah, if you enjoy the weird way that I am on Twitter, you'll also enjoy Jack. So give him a follow on Twitter. What else? Did we have anything else to say, or was that it?
I think that's it, really.
I
feel this has come to a graceful grinding halt, really.
Yeah, so we're gonna leave it there. Jack, thanks for being on the show once again.
No problem. Happy as always.
I shouldn't actually be. You should just be accepted as the co-host rather than me saying thanks for coming on. It should be just like, yeah, Jack, this is it. Like, you know.
This is just a thing that happens in my life now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, thanks for listening. Leave your comments and all of that stuff, and watch out for.